Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vaishnavi Singh, and I'm from Chulalongkorn University. And today I'll be presenting my research on environmental and social factors of dolmen placement with a comparative focus on Korea and India. I hope you like my research, so I'll be starting my presentation. So the very first question is what is the dolmen exactly? So the dolmens are megalithic stone structures mainly used for the burial purposes in ancient time. So they are found across many parts of the world that includes Europe, Korea, India, and other parts as well. So although they may look very simple stone structure, but their placement in the particular landscape is definitely not random. So instead, it reflects very important cultural uh, and environmental and social decisions made by ancient communities, and their placement is definitely is not random. They were very strategical and also very important. So I will not be talking about the significance of these dolmens or the size or the structure or how they were built, but I'll be talking about the placement in the particular landscape in these two regions. So the aim of this study is to compare dolmen placement in two regions. The very first is Ganghwa Island in Korea and the Kerala state in India. So I'll be talking about these two different social and geographical identities. And the main question I'm going to explore is why were dolmens built in these specific locations and what patterns can we identify across these two regions just by understanding the placement of these dolmens. So as for the methodology, this research uses a comparative landscape archaeological approach. It is based on existing archaeological reports, UNESCO data, and the published studies. So I focus on these three main variables. The very first is topography, which includes the elevation and the slopes. And the second one is visibility, meaning how prominent these monuments are in these landscapes. And the third one is the movement routes, such as trade paths, river system, maritime trade routes, etc. So the very first region I'm talking about, the Ganghwa Island in Korea. So in Korea, particularly on Ganghwa Island, dolmens dates to the Bronze Age. So Korea has one of the largest concentration or the largest number of dolmens in the world, and these monuments are typically found in the mountain slopes and are often associated with elite burials. So this suggests a very strong connection between the dolmen construction and social hierarchy. As we know, in the past, in the ancient Korea, there was social hierarchy system present, and these structure definitely are connected with social hierarchy system. So the other region I'm talking about in Kerala, that's a big state. So I'll be talking about the particular region that's called Marayur, where we found dolmens. So the dolmen belong to this region is actually age to Iron Age, to the early historic period. So in Korea, we have seen that these are belong to Bronze Age, but in Kerala, in Marayur region, these are belong to Iron Age to the early historic period. So they are commonly found in the hilltops and the rocky outcrops. So in Korea it was on mountain slopes, but in here it is on the hilltops or in the rocky uh, terrains. So the society here was largely based on agropastoral, or we can say on the agriculture or in animal herding. And we see, as a comparison of Korea, the society is less centralized, but still it shows the sign of social structure and the sign of hierarchy somewhere. So that's also we are going to talk about. So to understand this, we can first understand the topographic patterns. So one of the most important findings in these both regions, the dolmens are placed on elevated terrains. So in Korea, they are located on mountain slopes, and while in Kerala, they are found on the hilltops or the plateaux. So these locations are elevated but still accessible, which suggests a very deliberate, a very intelligent choice to separate the space of the dead and the people and the people they were living. So the living space and the space for the dead burials were definitely they made a choice to differentiate it. So it was still accessible, but of course it was far from the living space of the people. So the next factor we can understand is the proximity of the water. So another key pattern is proximity in Korea, like dolmens are located near Han River and the coastal areas, while in Kerala they are very closely associated with the Pamba River system. So water was very essential for survival and agriculture in ancient time, as we know, but it also had the symbolic meanings, and that often represented life transitions and the boundaries. So the proximity of water also is very important to placement of these dolmens in these particular regions. Another factor of this placement is the visibility. So the dolmens were clearly built to be seen by the people. So this placement on these elevated terrains made them highly visible. So if you place the structure on the elevated highly on terrains, so definitely it will be seen very easily from the surrounding areas. In Korea, even some dolmens even you can see from the sea part, from sea, where in Kerala they very stand out from the hilltops. So this visibility likely served to be express power, to express identity, and of course the territorial control. So if you want to make a boundary or represent a territory for the status, so definitely they with the burial they make this dolmen to represent their territory, the control on their territory. So the dolmens, so they were also marker for the traveler. So if you um, going to a particular route, and the people are traveling through that route, so and the dolmen easily can be acted as a markers for the boundary, for the control of a particular territory. So the visibility was one of the very important factor of the placement of these dolmens in both regions. Of course, we can also understand the social meaning as well with this placement of these huge structures. So in Korea, dolmens are strongly associated with the elite burials. So that indicates the social hierarchy system. So for the when a particular elite were dead, so on the dead they make this structure to represent the eliteness of those people. And in Kerala, the society appears more agro-pastoral, more on agriculture, less centralized, but there still somewhere shows the social differentiation. So in both cases, dolmen function as a marker of social identity, memory, and the status. So if we do a comparative analysis, what is interesting is that despite of these geographical and cultural differences, both regions shows very similar placement patterns. This suggests that different society independently can develop similar ways of interacting with their landscape, with when they're constructing monuments. So we have seen the both regions have the slopes, both regions have the hills and the mountains, and they're making on the terrains, and the way of interacting on this landscape by making this structure in a similar way can be is a sign of how the people actually uh, in the different society, in the different geographical entities, is can be very very similar in the social belief and in the different m- in different kind of perspective of for their burials or for their social patterns. So, what are the key findings with this research? To summarize, the dolmens in both regions are places are placed on elevated terrains. They're both located near water systems, very highly visible in the landscape, highly visible to the people, to the travelers, and connected to the movement routes, to the particular routes. These and of course, this shows that they were not just the burial site, they were not just a simple stone structure, but very, very important for the social and territorial markers. As for the conclusion, this research shows that the dolmen placement reflects both environmental adaptation and social organization, despite being both like different. Despite being different in regions from different time periods, Korea and Kerala demonstrate shared spatial logic in how they were used in landscape for ritual and for their memory. As for the future research, of course, GIS and LiDAR analysis will be really, really helpful to understand more uh, about these dolmens and these stone structure, the visibility studies, and of course, the more excavation in Kerala region. Of course, there are still many sites that can be uh, studied, that can be excavated in archaeological research and can have more evidences about the more significance about these social structures, and of course the comparative global study, because these stone structure, these dolmens are not just limited to India and Korea. Of course, in other parts of the world like Europe and other regions, we found a similar, very, very similar dolmen structure. So this was so vast in that ancient time. So of course, the comparative global study would be really, really helpful to understand more about these the role of the dolmens in ancient society with different global perspective. With this, I have concluded my presentation, and thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your listening my presentation. I hope you would like it, and I would be really happy to answer any question. So thank you so much.